Hello, and welcome to the tutorial on making posts on Mastodon. Making posts on Mastodon is easy. However, there are many features that are either not obvious on first glance or don't exist on similar platforms, so we might want to go over them so that everybody knows how to make the best use of what Mastodon provides you. Now, the compose form on the desktop will be on the left of the screen. If you have a smaller device, such as a mobile phone, it will be somewhere else. It will be under new post link in the navigation menu. And if you have a tablet device, it will be a new post on the right side of the screen somewhere around here. But ultimately, the compose form is this, and it is the same regardless of screen size. The compose form consists of multiple elements, and we'll go through each one by one. The first one is the visibility settings of the post. If you click on it, you can change who can see your post. There are 4 visibility settings on Mastodon, ranging from public to private. Public posts are visible to everyone. That means if you send a link to your post to somebody who's not on Mastodon, they'll be able to view it. Anyone who follows you will be able to view it. Anyone who's browsing hashtags that you've used will be able to view it, and so on and so forth. Pretty much public is public. It is in the name. The next option is slightly more complicated. It is called quite public, and it is practically the same as public in most scenarios, except that your post is exempt from search results, the trending page, and hashtag and local feed timelines. Now, we'll get to what those are in a moment. However, if you send the link to the post to someone, they'll be able to view it. If they browse your profile, they'll be able to view it. Your followers will be able to view it. They'll see it in their home feeds. It's practically the same as public in most scenarios. The next one is followers only. This makes your post visible only to your followers. Now, on its own, this isn't hugely meaningful. However, there is an option in Mastodon to put new followers behind the review, so you can control who's following you. And combined with that option, followers only basically means you can run a private account. So instead of posting stuff that anyone can see, whether they're using Mastodon or whether they're just browsing the web, or if they're browsing the trending feeds, only your followers will be able to see the post. And the last one, called private mention, is pretty much in the name. This post will be visible only to people who are directly mentioned in the post itself. And it basically is a feature that you can use to message people privately on Mastodon, but it is using the same mechanism as making any other kind of post. But we'll get to mentions in a second. So these are the 4 visibility settings. And if your post is public, you can also control who can quote the post. Now, quoting is basically attaching someone else's or your own post to another post and making another comment around it. And if you don't want your post to be quoted like that, to be attached to someone else's post, you can just say, like, only I can do it to my own post, or only my followers can do it. Like, you have 3 settings, or anyone can do it if you don't mind. So those are the visibility settings. The next option, here it says English, that is the language selector. If you click on it, you can choose which language your post is in. Now, some other platforms automatically try to determine what language your post is in, but this is not super accurate all the time, especially if you're bilingual and you switch between languages or you use multiple languages in the same post. So on Mastodon, we just rely on users telling us what language they're writing in. And if you're switching languages, then you can just quite easily change which language is marked here. Now, we do have a feature that if you start typing in a language that is not selected, for example, if I type in German, Hallo Welt, guten Tag, meine Freunde, this button will appear yellow, and if I click on it, you will see that German appears at the top because the application has detected that you're writing German, it is not 100% sure that it's German because it's not a very accurate algorithm. It cannot know for sure what you're doing, but it suspects that it's German and it's suggesting that maybe that's the language you want to select. So if you select that, the yellow color goes away and you can post this post as German. Now, why does this matter? This matters because people use language filters on Mastodon. So, for example, when you're browsing the trending feed or live feeds or hashtags, you can filter by languages you understand. And understandably, if your post is marked as a language that it is not, then the people who would understand it will not see it, and those who don't understand it will see it, and that's not good for anybody. So it is helpful to always mark it as the language that it actually is. There is another aspect to this, which is there is a feature offering machine translations for posts. So for example, if you come across a German post in your feed and you don't speak German, it offers you a way to translate that into the language that you do speak. However, that relies on the language of the post being accurate. Otherwise, it will try to translate from whatever language it's marked as, and if it's not that language, it will just output gibberish. So it's quite important to keep this accurate. All right, moving on. The button at the bottom is the button to select a file and attach it to your post. You can select a picture, a video, or even audio and attach it to your post. You can select up to 4 images or alternatively 1 video or 1 audio. Now, when we're saying images, if you have a GIF, which is to say an animated image, those are counted as images, and you can do 4 of them. And similarly, if you have videos that don't have an audio track, they also count as images, because ultimately a GIF and a video without sound is basically the same thing as far as Mastodon is concerned. So you can use GIFs that you have saved on your computer and they'll be converted to videos without sound, or you can directly use videos without sound for the same purpose, right? So once you click this and upload an image, this is an image of my cat, Gigi. He's wearing a collar on this picture. You can then either, if you don't want to attach it after all, you click this cross and it will remove it, or you can click edit and it will allow you to write a description of what's an image. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. This is optional. Writing a description for your images, for your videos, is absolutely optional. However, it is helpful if you are trying to reach a wide audience that might include people with visual impairments, blind people, people who use screen readers, because those rely on descriptions entered by users of what's in the picture. And writing alt text is not very difficult. And it is best done by humans, because you are the person who knows best why you're attaching this image. So what is the actual important bit of it? Description of images don't have to be long at all. In fact, the shorter they are, the more concise, the better, because if a person using a screen reader is scrolling past your post, the screen reader will read out loud in a machine voice everything that you've written about the image. So if it's a lot of unnecessary details, it's just wasting people's time, right? So the important bit here is this is a black cat with a red color looking very cute at the camera on top of a cat bed. That's really all there is to it. So you add this alt text and then the warning around alt goes away and everything's good. But again, you don't actually have to do this. There's no rule or law about this that's universal. However, it is considered good manners to do this, and many people on Mastodon will avoid sharing a post if it doesn't have alt text descriptions, because people want to support a environment where blind users and users with visual impairments are respected and included. But even for sighted users, there are actually benefits to writing alt text, because Mastodon's search engine will allow you to search posts even by media descriptions, right? So what I have written here is a black cat with a red color. If I want to find what I posted later, I can just type that and it will find it, right? There is another benefit, which is if what you're sharing has some kind of hidden meaning or a joke that may not be obvious, it helps even people who are sighted to be able to understand what it is that you're sharing and why. Anyway, moving on, you can choose to either have images or a poll. So I will have to remove this for now so I can demonstrate the poll function. So I remove this image and I click here, which is the button that adds a poll. A poll is basically a way to ask users, your followers or other users, to vote on up to 4 options. So let's say, what's your favorite pizza topping? And you see now it's warning me that it doesn't think that I'm writing in German, and it is correct, I'm writing in English. And then I can add up to 4 options. So I start typing here, let's say salami, let's say tuna, let's say mozzarella, and, I think it's spelled with 2 Z's. Let's say that's enough, and you can choose how long the poll should be open for, anywhere between 5 minutes and 7 days. And you can choose whether people can vote on only a single option at a time or multiple options. Right, then you can just post it and you immediately see the results, and they will update as people vote on your poll. Okay, moving on. The next button. The next button adds a content warning to your post. Now, what is a content warning? It's basically a way to hide what you have written behind a one more click. And this is helpful if what you're writing about is, for example, a spoiler for a TV show, and people would be upset if they got spoilered, right? If they saw how it ends before they've seen the actual show. That would suck. But there are many other scenarios where content warnings are helpful. For example, if you're writing about something that is not for all audiences, such as something adult, something involving sex or nudity, or maybe something upsetting about the war or violence. So you can write some text, let's say hello world, and then you can click this button and it brings up another text field called content warning, on which you can write what it is that you're warning about. So, just for the sake of argument, let's say this is a spoiler for Lost, the TV show, right? And if I then post this, my text that I've written will be hidden behind this spoiler, and people can click and view and then quickly also hide it again. Now, I'm going to demonstrate one more thing here, which is sort of out of order here of the way that I'm doing this, but you can edit posts on Mastodon. So if you've posted something and you've noticed a mistake, what you can do, and this is not limited by time or anything, you can do this at any time, you click edit, and it brings up your post back in the composer, and you can just change whatever you need about it. Now, there will be an edit history, so people will be able to see that it has been edited, when it has been edited, and what has changed. So the old version will remain for people to see if they want to do it, but the most up-to-date version will be the one displayed like at the very top, right? So what I want to demonstrate is how this function content warning interacts with pictures, video, and audio. So once again, we can add a picture of my cat, and as you can see, it appears blurred out. This is because the content warning feature is active. Let's toggle it off again, and you can see that this is my cat Gigi again, right? So if I posted it like this, it would just appear like hello world, and then there will be a picture of Gigi. But if I click this, both the text and the picture will be hidden behind the spoiler. So let's see what that looks like. Update. It's warning me that I haven't added alt text for the picture, but I can just click post anyway because I don't want to edit it right now. And as you can see, this post is updated, and now both the text and the picture are hidden behind the spoiler. I can click, and there is Gigi, there is my cat. But there is one extra layer to this that you can do. Let's click Edit again. Let's say that I don't like that there are two layers of warnings here. First, you have to click the banner, then you have to unhide the picture. I feel like the text in my post describes perfectly what's in the picture, and I just want the text to be public and appear right away, and I want only the picture to be hidden. What I can do is I just erase the text out of this field, but I leave it toggled on. This button is toggled on. And that's all you need. And now, hold on, actually this doesn't work quite right because I already had it opened. However, as you can see, it says sensitive contents. This is what it would appear like by default. The text is visible, the picture is not, and then I click and I see the picture and I can hide it again. So that's how adding content warnings for text and images works. The last button is the emoji button. And you can add emojis to your posts any sort of ways. Maybe you have a device that has an integrated emoji keyboard, maybe not, but this is a way to quickly browse what emojis exist and just add them to the post. However, there is an extra thing here, which is that Mastodon supports custom emojis. This is set up by your server administrator. They can upload images and assign them to shortcodes. For example, here are a couple of cats that are used as emojis. For example, this one looks very tired, so I can add this to my post, and then whoop, post, there it is, custom emoji. And basically this is just a helper. You can add as many into your text as you want. And that's all the buttons on the compose form, really. I've also demonstrated what editing a post is like. The only things remaining is some details about writing the text itself. So as you can see on the bottom, you're limited to 500 characters. And this is true, and this limit is shared between the content warning and the text. So for example, as you can see, if I start typing here, the counter goes down. So you cannot have like 500 characters content warning, and then you open it and you have another 500 characters. No, it is generally limited that posts are this length. It's worth noting that some Mastodon servers modify the limit, so you can have more or less than 500, but this is the default that we go with. Now, if you want somebody else to be notified in your post, if you want to appear in their notifications, but also for people to click and go on their profile, you can mention them. This is called a mention. So, for example, I can write hello, and then I start typing with an @ symbol, and then I start typing my wife's username. Her username is Amy Boyd, and a suggestion comes up. I can just press enter to insert it. That is my wife's handle, and when I post this, it will be converted to a link. Hello, Amy Boyd. As you can see, it's a rich link, so I can hover and see her profile. I could follow. I could do anything, right? So that's mentioning people. You can also add hashtags to your posts, which are keywords that start with a hash symbol. So you type the hash symbol, and then you just type whatever keyword you think might make sense. And hashtags are basically topics, right? It's a way for people to discover more of the same topic. So, this is not a very good example because this post doesn't really have any content in it, but I could write greetings or introductions here, and some of these hashtags are more popular than others and have many users browsing them every day, right? So this is a way to be noticed on the platform. And if you're writing a hashtag that consists of multiple words, it is a good practice to sort of combine them with every word being starting from an uppercase letter. So for example, let's see, landscape photography. You would type it this way, and the reason you would do it this way is because it's easier to read, and if there are users who are using screen readers who are visually impaired or blind, the screen reader would know to separate these words and read them out separately, even though they're combined into one word without a space, right? That's why people do it this way. So that's on hashtags. And the last bit is links, right? If you want to include a link to another web page in your post, you can just do it. All links count for 23 characters flat. Don't ask why 23 specifically. It just is. It's the reason for this is we don't want to punish people for posting long links. If you have, you know, a web page that has a very long address, we don't want to punish that and incentivize people to use what are called link shorteners, which are services like tinyurl and bitly and so on, which actually introduce a lot of tracking into what people are clicking. So instead, you don't need to use any of that. You can always paste the full link into Mastodon. You will not be punished for it by having your characters limited more than necessary. So you can include links, and on Mastodon, you do need to have the link include the protocol part at the front. So, for example, stuff like HTTPS in the front. If you just type, let's say, example.com, it will not be converted to a link. Only if it starts with HTTP or HTTPS. It also supports other protocols. So if you're sharing like FTP links or something, it will also be linkified. But this is, for most people, that's not actually relevant. Yes, and by similar principle, if you are dealing with someone who has a long username, you're also not penalized for it, because only the first part of username counts towards your character limit. This part at the end, which is the domain that their account is on, is ignored for character counting. So as you can see, if I remove this, which would make it an invalid mention, but it's still a mention, as you can see, the character counter is still 402 characters left. It hasn't changed. Right. Now that we've covered mentions, right, I can go back a little bit to visibility settings. And so private mentions, if you choose this visibility setting, you'll also see a warning appear here that posts on Mastodon are not end-to-end encrypted. So this is not a secure messaging application. We're not pretending to be one. Use Signal for that or another encrypted messenger. However, you can send a private message on Mastodon by selecting this private mention visibility setting and then directly typing who you want to see your message and then saying, like, you know, hello or whatever. Right, and then only they will be able to. Only they and you will be able to see that post. It's not a perfect alternative to DMs on other platforms because it's not meant to be. This is meant for, like, if you have a conversation going between two people and you want to share something that goes a little bit private, but have it to be part of the same kind of conversation chain, you use this. So it doesn't quite follow the same mechanics as let's say DMs on Twitter, where you have you know, a back and forth sort of very, very chronological conversation. So that is very separate from public posts. All right, so that's pretty much it on posting. I could mention, yeah, one more thing. If you want to write something that's very long, longer than 500 characters, or you just want to write about something that is ongoing, let's say you're commenting on something that's happening live, like an event or a live stream of some sort, basically you want to live post about it, right? What you would do is you would thread your posts. How you do this? You just keep replying to yourself. Let's demonstrate. So, for example, let me start a new thread. Hello, world. Again, that's just the example I go with. So I post this, and then I click on this. Actually, never mind. I accidentally posted this as a private mention because I didn't change the setting. Okay, it's changed now. Hello, world. I post this. Then I click on this first button, which is reply. It shows me here which post I'm replying to. I can actually cancel this if I want to, if I don't want to reply, but I do want to reply and demonstrate that this is the second post. I post it, and as you can see, they are threaded together. And this is a good way to link together posts that are about the same sort of event and topic, because whenever people come across one of these posts, they will see all of them together, right? They click on this one, they see the second one, they click on this one, they see the first one. Okay, that is actually pretty much it. No, I'm lying. There's one more thing, which is fairly recent, and that is quoting. How do you quote a post? Well, if the author has allowed it, as you can see here, I am allowing here, you can just click on this button, which is the shortcut for both boosting and quoting. Boosting is basically sharing the post to your own followers. It's going to make it appear on your profile and among your followers' feeds. Quoting is it will attach the post. So instead of an image or a poll, you have this post here, and then you can write whatever you want on it, like comment about this, right? And then you post it, and people see the original context and then your own comment about this. So now we have finally covered everything about posting, I think. This is probably the first in a series of tutorials about different Mastodon features that I want to cover. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hope this was helpful. Goodbye.